It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. Just acknowledging knowledge with no scholarships. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. Breaking everything down, tech to politics. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. We don't tell you what you want, we just give you what you need. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. News, brews, and views from these Chi-Town streets. Topic Thunder.
So like I was telling them, like, you already have the milk. You don't have to go sticking your thing. Oh, hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Topic Thunder, the number one podcast that Dan Brooks still doesn't listen to. My name's Brooks. Dan. That's Ben. Oh, it's going to be this slow war of attrition and passive aggressiveness. And then someday he's just gonna pop into the chat and he's just gonna call me an asshole, and that's gonna be it. That's just gonna be the mic drop, and that's all he's got to do. It's Dan F. and Brooks.
Yeah, and give us hang out for one lightning round vote.
Oh yeah, I think once he understood, even though I've tried to explain like what he does, and that's his son that does it, and yeah, I think he would really enjoy the especially if it was like let's say Ma Jordan, longtime listener, Ma Jordan wasn't available for like a kingmaker decision.
Right.
We should be able to make a phone call and be like, all right, well, we've got to break glass in case of emergency.
Yes, Dan could be the in case of emergency kingmaker. I love that.
All right, so welcome to Topic Thunder, the little cozy slice of the internet we call the Topic Saloon, the Internet Saloon, and welcome to the Thunderdome, everybody. We'll get to that a little bit later because it's just a quick reminder. Thanks for joining us over there on Twitch. It seems to be working out pretty good. We get a whole bunch of unique views, which just kind of pushes the algorithm forward. So as we leave the dusty, soon to be broken up into several different other companies called Facebook, Meta, whatever, as we leave that behind kind of in a purposeful way.
Right.
So it's kind of moving away.
You can also find us on YouTube if you don't know the Twitch thing. You can also find us on YouTube. We get random bots commenting from YouTube.
See, I don't even check that either. We don't announce it enough either. We've just been pushing the Twitch thing because it just seems to be the in vogue and quick way to get.
For some reason, or if you want, that's where they're also archived. So all shows are archived there as well. So if you can't listen live, you can always go back and listen at any time, and also go back and listen to past shows on our YouTube page, the Topic Thunder YouTube page.
Well, there you have it. Just search out Topic Thunder Podcast, and you usually see like a lightning bolt. And you just click on that, and then you'll see our wonderful mugs talking the things that we talk about. And usually before we get to talking, we libate. And hello, everybody, and welcome to Gigi's Kitchen, where we are going to celebrate the recent purchases. We had an adult shopping list from Binny's Beverage Depot that was sizable. We're stocking good.
Shopping list. What does that mean?
An adult shopping list. I imagine, like, I remember what like the shopping the total for groceries for a family of 4 used to be, and it $250 for like 2.5 weeks worth of food, right? Like you kind of get like that, yeah. Except this was just like booze. And one of the things that we picked up is this mezcal. We wanted a nice mezcal, and we found this one, and this one's called El Búho, and in Spanish. I got corrected today by my good friend at work. You don't pronounce the H in this particular word. It's just búho, and El Búho is the owl. So this is the owl mezcal. And there's 2 links that I sent you there. There's one that has like the bottle, which is really cool. It's a very, very, very cool on brand bottle, so the packaging has to be right.
Oh,
correct?
Yeah, yes, that is very cool. Check this out, guys.
But in a taste test, and just pouring a little bit in a shot glass after we got home and doing a little tasting, holy smokes. And I mean that, smokes, because mezcal is the Scotch to tequila kind of thing. It has that kind of, well, I guess there's 2 versions of mezcal. We found this out. There's a botanical kind of fruity, flowery kind of brand. I forgot the name of that one. but then there's a traditional mezcal which has a very smoky flavor. And this happens to be like I said, from Gigi's Kitchen. So we're
Well,
gonna give this.
speaking of this, we used to call this segment the beer, right? Because we would always drink a different beer, and that's how this originally started. But you have stopped drinking beer, you've moved over to drinks. And Gigi's onto something here. We're now. I think we should rename the segment. It's Gigi's Mixology Corner. That's how we start. Gigi's Mixology Corner. That's how we start every show. Where she gives you a little drink, and we talk about it. We get ourselves lubed up and ready to talk about how shitty this world is.
You don't have to say much more there, buddy. I'm ready to go after lubed up. But for sure, this has become a tradition, hasn't it? Because the beer's kind of going out the window. I've lost that extra tire there. But you didn't come here to hear that. You came here to hear what we call creatively the headlines. And we're going to kind of make a race to the big here because there's a lot we got to get to. And there's a kind of silly lightning round to also cap the whole thing off with. But we're going to start with this ridiculous headline. Are you ready for this? The federal government has sued an EpiPen maker, and they have to pay a $465 million fine for ripping off Medicaid over the life-saving device. EpiPen. Oh, wow. So on the surface, right, this isn't such a big, I mean, this is a big deal, right? That's half a bill. And that's a law. So it's the drug maker Mylan. So we're not talking about AstraZeneca or Pfizer, like the big boys. We're the kind of the upper mid card kind of jerks, right? So 465 million. Okay, yeah, that's a lot of money, right? Okay, fine. Should there be some kind of criminal prosecution here too? Because if you're saying you ripped off the federal government, who ripped off? There's a CEO or somebody.
Right. People
right?
did. Like people had to actually do the ripping off, right?
I had to scroll down a little bit to see who the CEO of Mylan is, and actually she's somebody we've mentioned here on the show before. Let me reintroduce you to Mylan CEO Heather Bresch.
We've mentioned her before.
We have mentioned her before, and I'm glad you brought that back up because we mentioned her when we did our profile of Senator Joe Manchin because she is his daughter.
Oh, okay.
Do you see what we're kind of scratching at here? And I'm not even saying because that pharma boy got fined like 49 million. It can't work in pharma. Okay, yeah. So this isn't like where's the individual accountability here?
Right. Like, come on. She's not going to face any accountability because of who her father is. 100%. And because she doesn't have the same last name, it'll get slid right under the rug. I bet you most mainstream media places probably aren't even mentioning this story because they don't want fucking anything, especially if they're right leaning or center leaning. They're not mentioning this at all.
So that's pretty much the only mention of her. And very cleverly, they put the mention of her name in the fine print underneath the photo.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything else has just been Mylan, right? This is from the report. Government health programs, particularly Medicaid, are major purchasers of EpiPens. Yeah. The reason why they were cheap or supposed to be cheap is because the federal government leveraged their buying ability through Medicaid to buy them in bulk cheaper for everybody and gives them to people in need for a discounted price. That's the idea, right? They spent $468 million. I'm sorry, $486 million in 2015. They only paid for the same amount, $86 million in 2011. That's a jump of 463%.
Yeah, that's not price gouging at all.
That's the problem here, because there, in no circumstance in any fair capitalist society, and that's walking a thin line there.
Yeah, that's an oxymoron if I've ever heard one.
There should never be a situation where there are profits before people. Not in this. Not about medicine.
This
Luxury items, mega yachts, and fancy
Sure.
cars. Go for it.
needs. I mean, wants, not needs. Wants, charge as much as you want for a want, but a need. I've been on this train for a long time that healthcare for profit is the wrong way of going about it. It's gross, and it's the wrong way of going about it. If you truly want a healthy community, medicine for profit is not the way to go. This is just another example. I mean, the prices of drugs are outrageous when you know that just simply if you lived in another country, that same pill costs a different amount. How can that be? That pill should cost the same everywhere. It's medicine.
Let me tell you something about medicine, Ben.
Yeah,
Let me tell you something about Gigi's Mixology Corner here, available on Topic Thunder and your fine select podcast vendors everywhere. What I've just had would keep you coming back to any restaurant or bar or household forever. So congratulations to Gigi.
So, how many Broox bolts out of 5?
To just for my own personal safety, the judges will give her a 4.5.
There you go. Because a 5, you really have to. That has to be something special.
You can't. That's like saying perfect service. Really, everything they couldn't have gotten. Like, or what are we talking about here when you say like perfect service or excellent service? There's just no such thing. You strive for those things, and with the knowledge that you'll never attain them. The people who can't figure that out go with the crazies.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just my own personal opinion. But speaking of the crazies, and we like to bring them out every once in a while too. How about this? How about this 29-year-old Dutch tourist who just couldn't help herself, but by giving a Sieg Heil while in Auschwitz?
I'm sorry. What now?
Officers from the southern city that houses the and I'm not going to dare say it because I know I'll just butcher it, in Poland that the Auschwitz is in, detained a 29-year-old woman from the Netherlands today, the regional police tweeted. The Polish police said on Sunday that they had detained a Dutch tourist for giving the Nazi salute at the site of the former death camp Auschwitz-Birkenau. Officers, this is a quote, from the southern city detained a 29-year-old woman from the Netherlands today. The tourist had been performing the Hitler salute in front of the sign, in the famous sign, or infamous sign, I guess I should say, the walk into the camp. And my German's rusty, so the sign is just German. It's a famous sign you see. It just says "Work sets you free." It's horrific, and for anybody who's ever been there, I'll tell you this, man. Like I've never. It just makes me uncomfortable just even thinking about it. Mm-hmm. You've never been on more solemn ground ever, and as far as it was heavy. Like every footstep felt a little more heavy than it normally would in that place. Like you felt the weight of what that space is now. And for this nonsense to go on, like they literally prosecute. They're now charging her with, because the Polish don't mess around with this, by the way, especially in this. Like, come on, like
one place, like you just
one place
cannot do it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I forgot what they charged her with, but basically propagating Nazi propaganda. That was it, like pushing Nazi propaganda. So you're going to be charged with, like, you know, being a propagandist. Like, I don't know, probably banned from Poland, which you should be. Because God damn it, like that. Yeah.
Punch him in the face.
Yes, that's a punchable face, isn't it? And speaking of, this was the 1-year anniversary, Ben, of us debuting the punchable face. Yes, tournament. And
March Madness, we're coming up on March. Yes.
So we debuted the idea, and it came up on my Facebook, and it was just the blank tournament thing. Now, do I think we're gonna do the full blown punchable face of tournament? Not in that format where it took us like 12 weeks to get to the winner.
Although it was fun, there was a build up so it had pros and cons for sure.
Sure, it's like tantric sex, right? There's a big payoff, but man, you got to really tough that out. It's gotta, however that works. I don't know. I'm white and Caucasian. That's all black magic to me.
Maybe we just cut down on the number of participants in the tournament.
Well, there was a shout from Gigi's kitchen, her mixology kitchen, and came up with a really good idea, and possibly something we could probably do for Valentine's Day is that we could have a tournament of kissable faces.
Oh, okay. Kind of to put a spin on it, put a positive spin on it rather than a negative spin.
Right. And then maybe do some.
Me. See, I would rather do punchable faces, but it makes sense that Gigi would rather do like kissable faces.
Because the people bristled. I guess there was some bristling about the punchable face. And so I just like we're somehow actually instigating violence as opposed to having just a conversation about people's
right.
stupid
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It was more tongue in cheek, but I get it. Yeah.
Which I'm not against doing the punchable face tournament. I'm not.
Yeah.
Just scale down for sure. But we could put together a kissable faces tournament.
So what is that? Like, most attractive, or like what is that? What is kissable faces? Like we have to have a debate on that. But hey, we don't want to get bogged down because we're trying to get to the big.
Yes, we do, Ben. Yes, we do. All right, fine. Let's talk about monkeys.
Okay.
Now let's specifically talk about monkeys that escaped. Let's talk about a transport truck with 100 monkeys in it that crashed in central Pennsylvania. Stop me if you heard this one. But a trailer carrying 100 monkeys collided with a dump truck off I-80 on Friday. 4 monkeys have gone missing.
How is this not in the lightning round?
I know, right? It's either scary or I missed the mark. You'll be the judge in about an hour. As of Saturday morning, 1 monkey is still unaccounted for. If anyone sees the monkey, please do not try to catch it. Call 911 and wait for authorities. According to the state police, the incident occurred around 3:30 p.m. on Route 54 off Interstate I-80 when 4 monkeys got loose during the commotion of the crash. That's a good band name.
Unbelievable. Yeah, commotion of the crash.
That's a good band name right there.
Mm-hmm.
The story goes on to tell a tale of a family that offered their support to try to find the...
Look at these monkeys. Look at these fucking monkeys in the trees just hanging out in Pennsylvania.
Word got out that these 3-pound monkeys were on the loose, and the Allen family sprang into action. Quote, "We just decided to come and try and see if we could find one," end quote, said Nate Allen. These residents are animal lovers and drove half an hour to search the woods along the highway for the monkeys. That's the spot where state police and game wardens search for the primates. I saw it on Facebook, and this actually started kind of a family fun joke, just making an experience and trying to go save a monkey. So I thought I brought a kennel, flashlights, night vision goggles, stated Allen. All right. I don't have an update on.
It was bitterly cold, they said. So I don't know that monkeys are meant to survive in bitter cold Pennsylvania. But
yeah, not 3-pounders.
Mm-mm.
No,
I don't think it made it through the night. Let's be honest.
But hey, just want to give a shout out because I took the story from Chicago's very own WGN, and I just want to know. I see you guys. I hear you. I see you guys using some of the lightning round stories in the morning show. My people tell me, so I'm just it's cool. We're just gonna I like it. It's a synergy. So just call me. But hey, let's talk about something serious, right? We talked last week about all the terrible things that are happening to teachers around the country. That the fact that they're leaving in droves. They're leaving the profession. Good, honest, proficient teachers are leaving because of the way they're being treated, right? There have been some pretty interesting stories about who has been filling in as substitutes. In fact, there was a story in NPR about there in your adopted home state of Texas, where they were just having regular old folks and parents kind of showing up and being substitute teachers.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Let me tell you what they're doing in New Mexico. And this one sent me into a little bit of a wormhole, but this is from the mountain.news. Everybody remembers their favorite teacher, whether it was somebody who doted on them or encouraged their passions or just gave them an easy A+. Many agree that American public school systems are hit or miss. There are public schools that provide superior education, extracurricular opportunities, and preparation for colleges in America. There are also public schools so horribly managed that they must be taken over by the state to get them back on their feet. We're going to get to the quote here in just a second. I'm going to circle back. But what New Mexico Governor Michelle Grisham has done, they are seeking at least 800 substitute teachers and daycare workers for shifts ranging from one classroom period to the entire day. Many of these empty spots caused by the worker shortages and teachers absent due to contracting COVID will be filled by members of the National Guard. While National Guardsmen will not be forced to be teachers, they are being encouraged to. These guardsmen will be trained with as little as 2 hours of training and 2-step background checks.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could go wrong? School districts will decide. Listen to this one. School districts will decide whether the military personnel appear in uniform or casual dress. A select committee has been assembled to research whether camouflage fatigues are needed to teach 5th period social studies to middle schoolers. This is actually the article is written by a Valera Voce, dated January 20th, again from the Mountain.News. It's actually well written. She has a definite sense of humor if Valera is in fact a woman. But what I wanted to circle back to was something that I had to do the clicks on. Was talking about the states of schools and education in general in America, right?
Uh-huh.
This is a report from the Harvard Crimson that Harvard's graduating class of 2017, 6% of the admitted students came from only 10 high schools. 11% of high schools with students admitted to Harvard sent 36% of the students, while 74% of the other schools only sent one student. Let's talk about what that actually means, right? That 11% of the high schools in America sent 36% of Harvard's graduating class, multiple students. The other 74% schools only sent one student. Now, I was like, this is weird. I'm trying to wrap my head around this because it's. So I did the click, right, and it's actually an article from my very own Chicago Tribune, and what this one decided. This article was absolutely nuts because it has that exact quote. 11% of high schools with students admitted to Harvard sent 36% of its students, while 74% of the schools sent only one. So again, we're just talking about where they took multiple students from. Like, okay, I need more information to kind of understand what's going on here, right? According to the Crimson, this is the Harvard student newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
1 out of every 20 Harvard freshmen attended one of only 7 high schools in America. 1 out of 20, 10% of this class attended one of only 7 high schools. They happen to be the elite of the elite high schools. Like, this is kind of nuts. How crazy is this getting?
Yeah, the fix is clearly in.
There is, they went on to, this one's in New York, and this is a public high school, requires applicants to take a 2.5-hour entrance exam with roughly 3% of applicants being accepted. That's a lower admit rate than Harvard itself. This line struck me, is that this particular school does these admission tests in elementary and middle school.
Jesus.
That ain't right.
Yeah, so
any stretch
they're basically finding these kids in elementary school and putting them on a preferred track to be successful.
It's a feeder system.
Yeah.
It's college football to the NFL.
Yeah, and it's not supposed to be like that, right? Anybody, the idea is supposed to be that anybody can apply, and the best students, no matter where they come from, should be getting admitted to these colleges.
Hey, and let's talk about some of the graduates from the Wharton School of Business too. Some of the bright folks that came from there.
Schools have a lot of really dumb people that graduated from there.
That's probably the best line of the year so far. to be honest with you. But all right, that's all pretty serious and pretty depressing. So I wanted to bring some good news. I want to let you know that we're going to dispel the myth that it's possible to fart yourself blind.
I didn't know this was a myth.
Neither did I. So I had to dive into this one. So a doctor has claimed that it is possible under rare, certain circumstances to fart yourself blind. Yes, we too are skeptical. This is from our good friends at IFL Science. Plastic surgeon turned part-time TikTok star Dr. Anthony Yoon gave an unlikely response to an even more unlikely comment claiming, "I once farted so hard I went blind for 3 minutes." The surgeon posted a video to address the comment, backing up the possibility.
No way. Shut up. You're just trying to become TikTok famous.
So, this is what the doctor said. Studies show that hydrogen sulfide is very effective in reducing blood pressure. And if it reduces blood pressure to the central retinal artery, your silent but deadly toot could theoretically make you go blind. So be careful if you're making a lot of bubbles in your bath. Now that was a plastic surgeon, a doctor, saying that, right?
I don't believe that. Nope, I'm not buying it.
So, of course, they kind of the article itself says, let's look at the numbers. Hydrogen sulfide is something that can cause your gas to be especially pungent with the odor compared to rotten eggs or cabbage. Right. It's also true that exposure to high levels of the gas can cause respiratory symptoms that range from rhinitis to acute, like a nose, your nose hurts, or acute respiratory failure. That's bad. At concentrations of 10 to 500 parts per million to being instantly fatal at 5 to 1,000 parts per million. It's also true that the gas can affect multiple organs, causing temporary or permanent derangements in the nervous, cardiovascular, renal, hepatic, hematological system. So let's see, cardiovascular, renal, your kidneys, hepatic, your liver, hematological, your blood, right? Mm-hmm. To get enough of it in your system, you can increase your blood pressure, as this doctor describes. However, you would have to be producing a hell of a lot of the gas in order to reach these unsafe thresholds. It would be basically you making fart at a healthy rate of 30.69 parts per million, which would be somewhere. There's a good range here. I saw it earlier and I'm falling apart, as I likely do at the end of these studies where I'm trying to pull everybody out of the funk of these terrible things we're talking about. But basically, it's really, really, really impossible for you to generate that much.
Of course it fucking is. And that doctor just see, and this is why people don't trust doctors, because this guy is out here on fucking TikTok.
Well, this is why you shouldn't get medical advice from TikTok or anybody who does a podcast. Anybody who does a podcast.
Right. Do your own fucking looking into people.
Ask your doctor. If you have a doctor and you're lucky enough to have medical care, that's what they're there for. They work for you. It's a job. Yeah. You pay them. You say, "Hey, doc, should I take ivermectin?" "I don't know. Do you have a viral liver disease?" "No, I have COVID." "Well, then you shouldn't take it because it's going to damage your kidneys. Because that's what it does. We just that's the trade-off. We'll trade off this. It's going to damage your renal system, but it will save you from this viral infection. So we got that to look forward to too. So back to the fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
Check this out. We love to talk about the growing police state, I guess, right? Check this out. This is from AL.com, which is Alabama. This is the headline. Police in this tiny Alabama town suck drivers into a legal black hole. This was published on the 20th of this month by John Archibald. It tells the story of Ramon Perez, who was caught driving 48 in a 40, and goes on to tell this horrid tale of also so many other people that the police would basically ticket him and throw on a bunch of other tickets, causing all kinds of fines, forfeitures, putting these people into this black hole. And I guess everybody in this town is in on it. The judge, they call it penny ante crimes. Everybody's complaining about harassment, and it's just going right through, right? And, I have police friends, and again, we like to say we're not anti-police. We're just anti-bad police. The town of 1,253 people just north of Birmingham reported just 55 serious crimes to the state in the entire 8-year period between 2011 and 2018. None of them were a homicide or rape. But in 2018, it began building a police empire, hiring more and more officers to blanket its 6 miles of road and a mile and a half jurisdiction on Interstate 22. By 2020, Brookside, that's the name of the town, made more misdemeanor arrests than it had residents. It went from towing 50 vehicles in 2018 to 789 in 2020, each carrying fines. By the way, that's a 1,478% increase. That's
Dude.
1.7 tows per every household in town.
That's insane. This I don't know where this. I got it up on the screen here. This I've been looking at this fucking paragraph for a minute now. Months of research and dozens of interviews by AL.com found that Brookside's finances are rocket fueled by tickets and aggressive policing. In a 2-year period between 18 and 20, Brookside revenues from fines and forfeitures soared more than 640% and now make up half the city's total income. You gotta be fucking kidding me. This is absolutely bullshit policing to raise revenue. I mean, this is egregious. This is throwing it in everyone's face that this is what we're doing. Yep, we're a small town and we are going to fucking ticket anybody we can on their way through to make sure that we get as much money as fucking possible. How can this be legal? How can this be legal? There's no way.
I'd like to give you the quote from the chief of police of Brookside. His name is Mike Jones.
Who?
His name is Mike Jones.
Who?
Exactly. Well, we should find out because this was.
You didn't get that joke, but there are people that are listening. That got that joke.
Oh yeah. Okay.
He's a rapper, and he has a.
Oh, you have to smart me up to that, maybe. This is the quote from the police chief, Mike Jones. Quote, I see a 600% increase. That's a failure. If I had more officers, more productivity, you'd have more. I think it could be more.
Come on. How can they get away with this?
I'd like to know what this guy's background is. I'd like to know what websites he visits. I'd like to know if he's in any fraternal orders, perhaps, that he's not disclosing anywhere.
Oh, quote, I see a 600% increase. That's a failure. Come on. Come on. That is egregious. They're throwing it in everyone's face. How can this be possible? How can this be possible? And if it's successful here and goes unchallenged here, what stops bigger cities from doing this? What stops the city of Chicago? How much revenue could the city of Chicago raise if they decided to nitpick and police and over-ticket the way that these people did?
Oh, they are. This is what's going on in Chicago. There was a story in the block. Oh, there was a story in Block Club did about the traffic lights, and they did a graphic of where they're all like stationed and which ones are most productive and stuff like that. Yeah, they're everywhere you think they would be in Chicago. Like they're west and south of the city, and
Gigi, you're smarting me up there too. Like, but this is like, I don't know, man. It's one thing to do it and like not put it out there, but if the police captain of Chicago, of the CPD, was out here going, we're doing it, and not only that, I think we should be doing it more. Fuck y'all. Will we put up with that?
In December, the mayor provided AL.com a budget document based on the previous year's audits. It did not feature a breakout of the police department. Asked why that was the case, the mayor responded, there had been an error, and that was heading for the municipal court fund was actually the police department budget. Sorry for the typo, the mayor wrote.
This is disgusting. We have to do something. And again, add this on the fucking huge pile of why people don't trust the fucking police, right? More evidence of more reasons. Now, this isn't just black people, Hispanic people, minorities. Everyone is being mistreated by the police in this situation. Every one of them, every person, no matter what skin color, is being abused by these people, and they're saying they're doing it. They're telling you they're going to do it, and they're and then they want you to respect them and their authority. Fuck them.
There's a story of a Miss Harris who was arrested and originally charged with flickering her lights or nuisance of casting light for a motor vehicle on real property at night. She was also charged with resisting arrest. A report quoted the suit after a lawsuit that she, quote, tightened her arm muscles from getting handcuffed. That
She was
was
ticketed for that.
that was a resisting arrest.
Oh my god!
They noticed her arm muscles tightened when they handcuffed her.
No,
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
they can
Like
get away with that. Come on.
There's a picture of their canine that they ordered, and the dog's got a cool vest, which fine, I get that, but it's got sunglasses on, so you know what that dog's like. I like it's this is the problem. This is the problem that like we don't talk about enough. This should be on the nightly news every day.
For
This kind
sure.
of stuff, and these people should be brought to justice. But like, holy smokes, this
That's
is
like that asset forfeiture, that civil asset forfeiture bullshit, where the police departments have basically stolen millions of dollars from people that didn't even commit a crime. Like this lumps right in with that, with like just how are they getting away with this, and how is it public knowledge that this is happening and no one's doing anything to stop it?
that's why having actual journalists and letting them do their job, when they're proper journalists, they know how to vet sources and everything. This is a very long piece, so anybody who's really interested in reading everything about what's going on in Brookside, Alabama, go to al.com, and again, is John Archibald piece about the police in Brookside. It's no good.
Is this right? The dog's name, the canine, is Canine Cash.
Yeah, that's the name of the dog.
They're laughing at us.
They're
They're
laughing
laughing at us.
Mm-hmm. Unchecked. So that's great. We're spending our money on that, right? But we've also spent our money on something else that's really, really cool. And that thing that's really, really cool has arrived where it's going to stay for the next 20 years or so. And we're talking about the James Webb Space Telescope. It has finally arrived in its position or in orbit around the sun and the Earth and what we call L2. We're going to get to it because this is a great way to explain like where and why it's so far away. It's 1 million miles away. Like if something goes wrong on this thing now, that's it. That's 10 bill gone. Because we have never done any sort of manned mission that far away. And likely because we don't know how they would get back, to be quite frank with you.
No shit, that's the problem, huh?
That's the idea of expending fuel just to get into space, to then have enough fuel to get that far out and then get back and do all the course adjustments that I'm sure we don't know how to do it yet. It's just
there's just not the capacity now.
So it's been this engineering marvel that this thing, because this thing is much bigger than, it's ginormous, right? It has to fit inside this rocket. So they had to fold it up. When they launched, we show you that picture of it, leaving. That was the last time we saw it with any kind of camera. It unfurled things. That solar panel came out. There's lenses, there's manifolds, there's solar shields. This thing's pretty cool looking. Like that's it. That is this infrared telescope that's sitting above the planet right now. Well, what does that mean? There's a cute little, very, very effective video in the middle there. There's a YouTube.
Yep, got it.
That shows what this L2 like landing zone is and what it basically means. If you just kind of play the video. Yeah. But it's really cool. I think it's really cool. So you'll see that they'll gonna kind of cut to kind of like a side view.
Okay.
So there's the orbit of the Earth around the sun, and that's where this telescope. That's how far away. So the actual telescope was facing us, right? So its back is to the sun,
Okay.
and one of the reasons it needed to be so far away is that it needs to have no like infra. It's an infrared camera. It's an infra, so like it needs to be that far away from the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun, so our infrared signatures don't get in the way and muddle everything. And one of the other reasons why it has to be, it has to operate in like it's. I think there's a hot side and a cool side. The hot side is like 55 degrees Fahrenheit. The cool side is like minus 323 degrees Fahrenheit.
Jesus.
And the instruments will not work properly unless they're that cold. They were specifically designed for that.
Wow. See, that's genius. Think about that.
And unlike Hubble, which just relied upon one big lens,
Mhm.
and that was the big thing about Hubble, is that the lens, there's something was not shaved correctly, it had a blur in it. So they had to go up in space and put like basic glasses on the Hubble and made it work. Yeah. I guess there's like 16 different like mirrors
Okay.
on this thing, and that's how they made sure that like one mirror could not fuck up this whole thing, because the other 15 will do all the compensating for that one that's fucked up.
Uh-huh.
So there's 16 of these things that are moving around. So we're not actually going to see a real picture from this thing for probably another 6 months, because that's how long the calibration and testing process is going to be.
No shit.
They're keenly aware of what happened with Hubble, and they are not going to let that happen, because Hubble happened in real time,
Uh-huh.
and it was like a picture that like it was like if you were doing a dial-up modem on AOL and it froze halfway through downloading. That's what the first picture from Hubble looked like. It was this blocky pixelated thing, like, you know, N64. I'm sorry, actually NES graphics were better. So they're keenly aware of that. So they're not going to let that happen again. They've promised, like they have specific targets in mind for like what will be the most mind-blowing pictures. And they're aware of the PR, which they should be, right? Because if this works and does what it does, they're going to get more money. They should get more money and funding. So we talked about those cool landing spots, right? There is a pick a little bit lower about these little spots in space around the sun, Earth, and Moon, where the gravitational fields kind of do the work of holding something in orbit. And it's because of not only gravitation, but the magnetic fields too. It is very, very cool. But also, if you have an eye for the unseen, you start getting into some interesting geometry in what is basically just magnetic fields here.
I can't. Unfortunately, this graphic is not wanting to fit well into one screen. I think it's the best I can do is this right here. But it is kind of interesting geometrically.
So there's 5 spots that we know about in our little geosynchronous orbit around the sun that are effective like this, that can kind of hold something. And that's one of the reasons that why it does have a limited shelf life, this mission, because once this thing's out of like rocket fuel, that's it. There's no refueling it. Or maybe in 10 years we figure something out. But again, the problem with like getting something or someone back. So there's 4 other spots in this orbit where you could put something, an observatory like this, and keep it there for scientific purposes, or maybe defense in case like the aliens are coming. But we know the aliens are coming.
Wait a minute. So these are points in space that we know that if you put an object in that space, it will stay in that space
relatively
within a certain amount of give and take.
Yes. And this thing every 20 days.
How do we fucking figure that out?
Science, man. We figured out like what the magnetic fields, the strengths of the magnetic fields. Yeah, and
amazing.
It was somebody saw something. They combed through the data. They did calculations. It was a theory. It got passed along to everybody else. Everybody was like, well, this looks solid, but what about this? Oh, let's go make a correction. There was some peer review, but then they all decided like, oh shit, this is kind of, we all agree. And that's when they publish it, and then that's like, wow, really? Yeah,
It happens, Brooks, when guys or men and women are take a large portion of their life and they dedicate it to a single subject of a scientific nature. Isn't it fascinating when those people put that time and effort in, what they're able to find? Now, could you imagine if you presented that information and I sat here skeptically and went, yeah, but what does Joe Rogan say about it?
well,
Science is so amazing in this sense. Anybody can look at this and say, that is amazing for us to have been able to figure this out.
sure, and in the same breath,
And you wouldn't question it. You wouldn't question, is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, somebody just looking at this chart here without like the background or anything like that, and because this isn't going into the background of these spots, it's just showing you like this is what they're doing. And the idea is, if you don't think it's real, it that's on you. Like the burden of proof falls on you to figure it out. Is it or isn't? Because there's plenty. Trust, there's plenty of research about this. Do you understand? Do we understand it? No. That's why we're trying to encapsulate it in something easily digestible.
This is why you listen to the smart people in the room.
Yeah, at least, and we're speaking. We're trying to translate from the smart people.
Exactly. We're not. Let me be clear.
Yeah.
I'm not the smart person in the room, but I listen to the smart people in the room, and I say, "Hey, listen, this smart guy over here. Listen to what he has to say."
Well, sometimes the news can be really good, like this fantastic bit of information and the future science, because this thing's going to peer back, and we're going to be able to look at the energy on the infrared spectrum from the beginning, or at least we theorize of the universe. We're going to see some of the very first stars and galaxies that formed, just their light signature, right?
No,
Because it hasn't. Well, yeah, because it technically hasn't gotten here yet. Yeah, we're talking space time. So we're going to see things we've never seen before. We're gonna find things and come to a new level of understanding of physics, quantum physics. That
maybe we do need a space force. Just saying.
We need the United Federations of Planets. We need fucking Spock out here helping us out doing science.
Hard in this bitch,
right? We need science. They were out there exploring. Well, the Enterprise was a flagship and basically the battleship of it. We won't get into that. It was a science-based mission. Wink, wink. Speaking of just missions that you just kind of showing up for afternoon tea, that's going to bring us kind of right into our big here. And we've been talking about this for a little bit now, and trying to figure out what the chessboard is and who's on the chessboard and what the people on the other side of the chessboard actually want. And this goes back years, decades, who knows how long, but it does seem at this point now that the situation in Ukraine is kind of coming to a head.
Brooks, the other morning, I got to put you over here before we get to this, because I'm
sure, go ahead.
As I'm going through the headlines, because I try not to look at the stories that you send me right before the show until, as you're going through the stories, I look ahead just to get it ready and get it up on the screen. And I was like, man, I can't wait to talk about Ukraine, because I know we're going to talk about Ukraine, right? Like every week we talk about Ukraine, because I wanted to put over the fact that this last week is the first time now you've started hearing on mainstream news and mainstream news outlets talking about what we have been talking about on this very show, what Brooks has been bringing to the table for months, 8 months plus.
It's a passion.
I mean, honestly, if we went back through, and I went back through on our YouTube page where everything is archived, and I went through and I picked out every Ukraine story, it probably goes back 8 months. And you walked us down the breadcrumbs all the way to where we are now, which is shit's getting real.
Shit's getting real, and that the State Department told the U.S. Embassy families to get out of Ukraine. If you had family and you're a State Department worker at the embassy, you didn't have a choice. You get out. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, they warned any U.S. citizen in Ukraine, get out now because the United States government can't guarantee your safety if something were to happen. Oh, and by the way, they say something is imminent. It's an unstable situation. So there's a story here. We're going to talk about this in depth because there's obviously a lot of angles here, and we're kind of talking about World War III here, aren't we? This is kind of the unspoken. This is the gorilla in the room, right?
This could be the thing that lights that fuse. Yes.
Because there has been a lot of retort in the last week. That again, you heard a whole bunch of European nations now, especially today. There is a whole slew of European nations donating fighter jets and ships to the NATO. You heard the United States, 8,500 troops are ready to go. Uh, uh, this is something we've been talking about. What he wants. This is what Vladimir Putin wants. We talked about the massive troop rush into Belarus, right? That's going to come up a little bit later too, because there's so many angles to this now, and we live in such a wild battlefield, right? It's not just guns and people anymore. It's computers and money and resources. Well, it's always been resources, right? But like we're talking like full scale economic, military, cyber war here, a cultural war here, right? And I thought, my humble opinion, that this NBC News article did a good job of kind of showing the seriousness, because they gave kind of Russia's not point of view, but they did quote I believe Putin and Lavrov, basically the Secretary of State for Russia. But there's some quotes from the president, right? How the president's taking it seriously. President Joe Biden has said military action, including invasion, could be imminent. In his news conference last week, marking 1 year in office, Biden warned that Russia would face disaster if it invaded Ukraine. Quote, if they actually do what they're capable of doing with the forces amassed on the border, it's going to be disaster for Russia. Our allies and partners are ready to impose severe cost and significant harm on Russia and the Russian economy. We can get into that too. And what does that mean? Does that deter anyone? No, because at this point, I don't think Putin has any other option now. He's backed into a corner now, right?
Right. At this point, Putin is a very prideful man, right, with a very large ego. And at this point, the line has been drawn in the sand, and he's the type of person that when you draw a line in the sand in front of him, he's going to step over that line. He has no choice. His whole makeup as a person is that you're not going to tell me what there's a line in the sand. I make the lines. You don't make the lines. You know what I mean?
And Putin, that's just lip service from him. Like, this guy has a plan, and he's trying to put some version of the USSR back together. In fact, I was watching a pretty, I guess, morbidly funny Twitter stream where historians and just provocateurs were inlaying maps of like the Ottoman Empire over Europe and kind of like Western Russia, and saying like, well, in 1469, Prince Frederick of the Ottoman Empire declares like this land, sovereign land from Russia, blah blah blah, like, because that's what Russia's doing with Ukraine. They're saying like this is part of our ancestral land, not recognizing the fact that Ukraine has been a burgeoning democracy in a very particular and perilous spot for sure, but accepting of a free market economy, which of course is directly in line with everything Vladimir Putin is against. And his concern for this so-called NATO expansion, which there isn't, to be honest with you. It's incredibly difficult to get into NATO. You've got to spend a lot of money on your defense. You've got to have a lot of capability in the first place. It's not like just everybody that wants to be in can be in, because I'm sure there'd be...
You have to bring something to the table militarily, yeah.
Right. So the idea that NATO's expanding, that's what he's telling his people, basically. That's what he's telling like his puppet states, is that NATO's expanding. We've put these troops on the border of Ukraine, not only to secure the Russian defense, but to dude, this dude fucking gave this speech at some super elite dinner club, calling on the Russian Orthodoxy and saying like he's against the moral sins of Western Christianity. And he's encompassing every single angle to keep his people placid to this and make us look like the enemy. And which, hey, we here at the show and in the office, we wear the sins of America openly, not proudly, but we do not forget them, right? We know damn well our history here.
Right.
We also know the history of Russia, and that when they start talking like this, and this guy, Vladimir Putin is a historian. He is a very, very keen on the history of Russia, and he no doubt wants to go down like heralded like a czar, and to be some sort of weird saint in the Russian Orthodoxy.
Right.
That's going to be his angle. Some people just want to work toward retirement. Some people want to have a family and have kids. Some people want to start a business and become
and
a
that kind
millionaire.
of answers Aunt Chris's question in the comments where he said, why are Russians so angry? Like all of their presidents, premiers were just pissed off and greedy. But this kind of answers it. It's an ego thing. He wants to be remembered in this reverential way for all of time.
Well, that's communism, though, too. It centralizes the power, right? So it puts people in these situations that, that's the tough man role. Like all dictators and authoritarians come off angry. Like Lukashenko, does he look like a happy dude? Like, no. Like, did Mussolini look like he smiled a lot? Not really.
Yep,
They all kind of, you don't see it. Like, and when they do, sure, there's pictures of them being like happy and blah, 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 but like not in public. You got to show that firm hand, right? Because there are those folks out there that really get off on that. Mm-hmm. And that authoritarianism, that somebody's in control so you can sleep at night. We're gonna fight for your kids and make sure they grow up knowing that it's a single sex and man and a woman are a family. And this is what he's doing. We're fighting for sovereign Russia to get our territory and our people back and our promised land, our resources back. All of those are being washed upon the Russian people, who are desperately poor. Desperately poor. The Russian people are victims in this, to be quite honest with you. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot of elements of United States society that looks at what Vladimir Putin's got going on as far as the oligarchy and go, not bad.
Right, for sure.
Not bad. I see you, Vlad. We're working at it over here.
Yeah.
So I originally was going to do the headline about this from Fox News. Mm-hmm. And it struck me as, well, we should lead with something from what, the other side of the aisle, because we don't believe while the aisle exists, we try to extend for information here. I was like, I'll give Fox a chance, right? Let's do it. So the article starts off.
Tensions are mounting in the Ukrainian capital tonight with
pretty
Russian
well.
Damn it.
So the State Department issues, travel warning for Ukraine. Embassy staff is told to leave. This is great. U.S. says, there's a quote from the State Department, an unnamed person from the State Department advisory, blah, blah, blah. State Department says this, State Department says that. Oh, okay. Oh, look at the picture that they have kind of center of the article.
Oh, this one?
No, none of the troops. One above that.
Oh,
this was the depiction of the two leaders of these two nations that are at odds and on other sides of the negotiating table. You have one looking like an engaged, confident leader, answering questions, presumably standing up at a podium. You have the other one, he's standing up at a podium, looking a little bit bemused and checking his watch.
Right.
Now, both of these are probably AP Getty files, very press pool-y kind of things, right?
Yep. Absolutely, yeah.
But this is the way...
There are multiple photos. Just so anybody that's never worked in a news department before, I have, at a newspaper, you get a ton of images from Getty Images and AP, right? And you can choose any of those images. The person that put this together, this website together, this page, made the choice to put these two pictures like this, right? These are my only two options. Right. This is just the only two I've got. No, you had multiple options, and you picked the one that made Biden look like he was an old man who didn't know where he was, and he was checking his watch. And you made the other guy look like a fucking president.
Not a single quote from the President of the United States is in this article.
No shit.
So, when we say check your sources, not only check your sources, but how is that information being presented? Because I know what NBC News is all about.
Right.
I know who owns them and I know what they're looking for. But at least I'm getting information, right?
Right.
Not just all this was quoting the State Department press release, which is fine. But
There's no depth to the story of what's going on, why this is going on. Like you said, the other story, the NBC story, had layers to the story. And quotes from multiple people. Yeah.
Actual reporting.
Mm-hmm.
Just again, thanks Fox News.
The difference between a news source and a propaganda machine. Just saying.
So today, there was a bit of a stock market issue, but holy smokes, not compared to the one in Russia. Markets were down 2.3% Monday afternoon. That's crazy. It's a significant move in foreign currencies market, trading at 79 points. So what happened in Russia is the Bank of Russia, this is a quote from them. They came out and had to make basically they said, we're not going to purchase foreign currency on the domestic market from here until I believe the rest of trading. This decision was made in order to reduce the volatility of the financial markets. What does that mean? It means people were trying to buy up every other version of currency other than the Russian ruble. And it was causing the markets in Russia to collapse. Why would that happen? Because everybody's freaked out about a war in Ukraine. And that's not only over there, right? Because if you see just the headline on the New York Times website, which is the next slide in this wonderful presentation here, we had a bit of a market tumble today too, right? Everybody was upset about Ukraine. Side note, which you have to click on the article and kind of read and see what the real reason was, is that not only fear of war, that always kind of drives the market down, or at least certain aspects and sectors of it, right? The Fed is meeting tomorrow and Wednesday. They're going to release a statement on Wednesday, which they're probably going to raise interest rates, which is what's typically done to fight inflation.
Yes.
That is probably what caused a massive sell-off in U.S. markets. But just the cover of the New York Times tells a tale of a miraculous rebound of the market.
Funny enough, I was looking at my stocks today and I was like, God damn, it was getting pretty ugly about midday today. And I was like, whew. And then all of a sudden, I just turned off my thing. I wasn't even looking at it. I was like, I don't want to even look at it. It was so bad. And I checked it right before 3 o'clock, and it had rebounded all the way back to even.
At one point, the Dow Jones was down 1,000 points, which people start jumping out of windows at 600 points, right? Mm-hmm. This graph tells another tale of our problems here in America. So what you're seeing here is everybody freaking out, selling off, trying to get cash, right? Sell. That drives the market down because there's more stocks available, right? It got to a certain point right there. If you look on the left side of the graph, it got to literally, that's the NASDAQ, I believe, the green one, one.
Yep.
It got to 5% down. And all of a sudden there was this miraculous buyback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was waiting. Somebody was waiting for a certain percentage, a certain price, a certain level of deflation.
Yes, and also when panic starts, what happens is they stop loss rate, because a lot of investors have their shit set at stop losses, where if it goes down by a certain amount, they automatically sell their stock, and you can drive the price down very quickly in order for you to be able to then scoop up a whole lot of those stocks when it goes to the bottom, and then all of a sudden it miraculously all comes back. That's what you're describing. This was all manipulation.
So the same thing happens in Russia, right? There's this massive sell-off, the markets tank, and all of a sudden the banks step in and basically halt a version of trading, or at least a portion of the markets. Well, yeah, I'll bet that those markets kind of build back up, or somebody's going to buy that stuff, because the chart we're seeing on the New York Times isn't a lone gunman. It's not a solo act. That's going on there. If that's what happened in the market here, that's what's going on over there too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
things to keep in mind while we're talking about the possibility of this situation escalating, right?
Mhm.
So you've heard a lot of allies contributing: Denmark and Sweden, and I think Czech Republic, Poland for sure. NATO allies are all contributing. NATO forces and allies are redistributing forces to help support Ukraine. United States, I believe, is $600 million thus far in aid and equipment and training. And I know UK and France are also doing the same thing with money, aid, and equipment, right? There's one very interesting country you don't hear a whole lot about here. And unfortunately, they are kind of central to the defense of Europe from any sort of anything.
Mhm.
That country's name is Germany.
Mhm.
This is a story from Reuters. Germany urges prudence in potential sanctions against Russia over Ukraine. Germany's leader has urged Europe and the United States to think carefully when considering sanctions against Russia for any aggression against Ukraine in a crisis pitting Berlin's main gas supplier against its biggest security allies. Among a range of Western sanctions against Vladimir Putin's government, Germany could halt the Nord Stream 2 pipeline from Russia if it invades Ukraine. But that would risk exacerbating a gas supply crunch in Europe that has caused energy prices to soar.
Mhm.
Quote, prudence dictates choosing measures that will have the greatest effect on those who violate the jointly agreed principles. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz was quoted by saying,
That's awesome.
I know, right? Schultz. At the time, we have to consider the consequences this will have for us.
Oh man, you didn't want to try to pronounce that newspaper?
Scheudendeutsch Zeitung. Zeitung. I'm using a French accent to do a German word. That's where we are with the show. I blame Gigi's mixology corner. So here we have the German chancellor saying, hey guys, I know Russia's bad, but we got to think about this.
Let's not fuck with the gas.
While Russia's thugging up the eastern border of Ukraine, and we're not just talking about like troops doing that. We're talking like long-range artillery that could, once in position, not too far from the border, could level Kyiv in a heartbeat. Short-range ballistic missiles that are in Belarus, I'm sorry, that could level Kyiv and could probably reach Warsaw in Poland if pushed to their limits. That's the kind of threat, right, that we're facing.
Mm-hmm.
Germany holds such a strategic and financial advantage in Europe and is again critical to the safety of a free and Russia-free Europe. For them to be pushing back and even stepping back, saying, hey guys, hold on, let's hold on, made me wonder, what have they done? And the answer is not a whole lot. They haven't made any sort of I shouldn't say financial. They have not made a military contribution to NATO in terms of defending, not an ally, but defending the allies in NATO, right? All these other countries are donating aid and everything like that. Here's Germany not doing anything. When's the last time you heard that story? That Germany and Russia are somehow, some way, for some reason, not necessarily working together,
We're on
right?
the same page.
We talking about allies. That's what we're talking. Thank you, Gigi. We talking about allies,
Not
right?
the Axis. Not the Axis.
And that's what it's going to be, right? Because, hello, McFly, Germany, can you be a little more self-aware? The same country that if you do as well in Poland as in Germany, if you do a Sieg Heil, they'll arrest you in the street. They'll arrest you for that.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to allow Ukraine to get overrun, taken over, which borders Poland and Hungary, NATO allies.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to allow this all those people to die needlessly
over gas prices.
and you're going to say at the same time we have to consider the consequences that this will have for us.
It's not a terrible. I mean, it is not a terrible way to look at it. I mean, on its surface, if there's not ulterior motives.
I get a leader looking out for his people, but if you haven't seen this coming by now,
right?
There's no. Again, if you haven't seen it coming by now, and there have been plenty, your neighbor Poland has been ringing the warning bell for a long time about this. Saying people have been warning everyone about Putin since he did basically a practice round of what he's doing now in the former Georgia, the former Soviet Republic. It's Georgia. He did the same thing, soft invasion. All of a sudden, there's fucking troops on the streets. Whoops, we didn't know how we got here. Guess you can't join NATO now.
Oops, sorry.
That's what he's doing. He's already done it. Donbass and Crimea. He's already just waving his dick in the international face right now.
And he's able to do that because we are so reliant on oil and gas.
Well, there's a real couple of interesting things here. It can sprout. We talked about what some of those sanctions would be, right? One of them is cutting short the supply of to Russia. The United States could force, like they have with Huawei. Any company that does business with the United States cannot buy Huawei equipment. He can do the same, except reverse. You can't sell semiconductors and microchips to Russia. We're talking cell phones, we're talking military, we're talking everything. And it is a strong economic weapon, for sure.
That is.
But again, that's not what he understands. And that only kind of hurts the people.
Yeah.
Him.
Wow.
Sanctions on him and his cronies. Oh boy. I mean, it sucks because there's not a lot to do in Russia, even if you have a whole lot of money. That's why these dudes have their kids here in Florida and vacation homes around the world with yachts and everything. Because if they could do that in Russia, they would.
Right, but the landscape there is not conducive for vacationing.
No, not super yachting and villas and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's why they have all these assets all over the world, and that's what we could sanction them on for sure. That's what you hear when the personal sanctions and all these people. The minute you step foot in these your money's frozen, you can't get a passport or a visa. It's just done. You're not going anywhere, right?
Ryan Hansen asked a great question. Why can't we make chips in-house? It's not like we don't know how, because you have to pay people a decent wage in this country to do those jobs. They can do them much. They can get them made much cheaper and make more money if they have China do it.
That's what it's all about, unfortunately. So we talked about how big the scope of this war would be, right? There's a little nugget here from ABC News. The Department of Homeland Security warns of Russian cyber attack on the United States if it responds to Ukraine invasion. This is a quote. We assess that Russia would consider initiating a cyber attack against the homeland if it perceived a U.S. or NATO response to a possible Russian invasion of Ukraine threatened its long-term national security. And that's what the Russians are saying. You're threatening our borders. There are all these NATO troops there. You fucking NATO people all over the place. That's why we've done this to defend ourselves, because you're threatening our national security. Even though when they get to the negotiating table, they make these ridiculous demands that they know can't be met by no reasonable person. Right. And then they go, well, they can't get. They're not willing to work with us with these very simple and reasonable demands. So, of course, there's going to be a cyber attack, right? That's just one facet of this evil master plan.
That next quote, Russia, DHS said, has a range of offensive cyber tools that it could employ. I guess it could be offensive too. That it could employ against U.S. networks, and that the attacks could range from low-level denial of service attack to destructive attacks targeting critical infrastructure. Like, they could fuck with us on a multitude of levels if they wanted to.
They've been testing it.
Duh. If you've been watching fucking Topic Thunder, you've been hearing about all these weird cyber attacks. Wasn't it about, I don't know, 6-8 months ago that all these weird businesses and different cities and shit.
It was the water plant in Florida.
Water plant. Yeah, all these women. Now
it was that pipeline in like central eastern seaboard, right?
We're like, what? Why would they do that? That's so weird that they would pick those places.
It's been hospitals that have been ransomwared. It has been power companies. It has been it's been the defense contractors. It's been everywhere, right? Just kind of poking and prodding, right? Poking and prodding.
And that's just what we've found, right? That's just the ransomware that we have found in these places. They've been creeping in the back door, finding out what they had access to, and have been doing that for years and really ramping it up for months. And now all of a sudden it makes sense. Instead of you respond, we're going to send more troops. No, man. That ain't the game Vladimir Putin's playing, ladies and gentlemen. He is not playing the fucking boots on the ground game. He's playing, you fuck with me, I will fuck with you. I will fuck with your country. Our country is based. If some hackers crashed the World Wide Web, the world would be in a shitstorm. That's it. Our entire world, America's entire culture is based around the internet at this point. Business, entertainment, communication, everything is based on this internet and these types of concepts. We could be fucked with so easily.
And you're so right. And anybody who thinks that that's anywhere near fantasy, Google this: Russian submarines near underwater internet cables. And go ahead, find some. There's plenty of reputable resources, including secretaries of defense and admirals of navy, saying we have found Russian submarines searching the ocean floor for internet cables, the big ones, the big 30-foot wide, like that, are on the ocean floor. They're real. I'm not making it up. It's a legitimate thing that's being warned about. Yep. So, and not only just this, not only the fact that they can, and they've done this in Ukraine. They've shut down the Ukraine power grid to Kyiv and other places. This is, again, all they have to do is scale it up, right? Mm-hmm. We talked about a pushback, though. We talked about a pushback from America, right? What's America going to do? We're going to tell them you can't spend your money, and we're going to shut down your economy and blah, blah, blah. We'll give resources and blah, 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 blah. Other people have kind of taken this into their own hands. And let me introduce you to a group of hacktivists that say they've hacked the Belarus rail system to stop the Russian military buildup.
No shit. Hell yeah.
Hacktivists in Belarus said on Monday that they have infected the network of the country's state-run railroad system with ransomware and would provide the decryption key only if Belarus's president Alexander Lukashenko stopped aiding Russian troops ahead of a possible invasion of Ukraine. Referring to Belarus Railway, a group calling itself Cyber Partisans wrote on Telegram, at the command of the terrorist Lukashenko, these days allow the occupying troops to enter our land. As a part of the Peklo cyber campaign, we campaigned the bulk of the servers, databases, and workstations of the Belarus, the railway, in order to slow down and disrupt the operation of the road. The backups have been destroyed. Dozens of databases have been cyber attacked, including they list the databases.
Wow.
A representative from the group said a direct message that the Peklo cyber campaign targets specific entities and government-run companies with the goal of pressuring Belarus government to release political prisoners and stop Russian troops from entering Belarus to use its ground for the attacks on Ukraine. That's cool. So there is
there's a tweet. I have it up on the screen now. They had two conditions: release of the 50 political prisoners who are most in need of medical assistance, and preventing the presence of Russian troops on the territory of Belarus. That might be the only way to really fight back.
Don't think Anonymous in whatever weird form because Anonymous started really cool and got infected too with some weird folks and had lost their way a little bit, but there are still like branches of that hold true to that idea and that cause, and if hack the planet, if you remember
Listen,
that.
if this goes down the way it looks like it's going to go down, right, where Russian fucking computer nerds are going to fuck with us, it's going to take our own computer nerds to fight back. The military soldier, I don't care how many guns we have. I don't care how many bombs we have. I don't care how many troops we have. And I don't care how fucking jacked up those troops are. None of it fucking matters if this is the chessboard where the game is being played. We are going to have to rely on fucking computer nerds to win a war, maybe the next world war with Russia.
We haven't been tested. The homeland has never been at risk since basically the Civil War, I guess. The Pearl Harbor, right? If you but otherwise, like it's almost impossible to fight to conquer America like that via land war.
It's the only way, right? You're not going to bring a bunch of troops to the American border and overrun America militarily. That is not going to happen. No way. Because even I would have to be like, all right, fine. I actually had to defend my shit now.
That's what's happening in Ukraine, by the way. That like people, men and women, young and old, are like signing up for like their defense force. They're getting trained by the actual army, and like the people of Ukraine are going to stand up. Mm-hmm. They're going to get slaughtered, and they know it, and I think everybody knows it. Yeah. But that's. Do
you want to cripple America? Shut down the power grids. Shut down the power grids. What the fuck will we do? What will they do? What will we do if Russian hackers shut down the grid in Texas?
No more 90-Day Fiance.
Where's Ted Cruz going to go when that happens?
You probably low key just stay home. Ted, I hope somebody's getting to your Ted.
He'll go to Cancun or some shit.
Oh, that would be ridiculous. Who would do that? Who would abandon their constituents in a situation of life and death?
Yeah,
that would be ridiculous.
God damn.
Speaking of ridiculous, holy shit! Have you heard about the lightning round? The #1 podcast segment in the world. Still not listened to by Dan Brooks. That's 2 shots at you, Dad. Same episode. What's up? It's the lightning round. We're about to see the thunder and the lightning bolts in the Thunderdome. Where you know the rules, folks. 3 stories enter. 1 story gets read, and you, Thunderheads, as we affectionately call you all, you choose. And we're just not going to dilly-dally around here. We're going to get right into it.
Hey, I just want to say one thing real quick. Before we get into that, I just want to point out, I love that Twitch offers the option of multiple lightning gimmicks so that you can choose between how you want. Like there's the Power Rangers version and like the other version. And I like that people choose both. It's so cool. I love it.
It's cool. Thank you for all the lightning. You know how much I love seeing that lightning. Let's get to it. Headline #1. Cabin crew aghast as woman eats tray of lobsters on a plane. We're going airborne on this story. #2. Pakistani pilot refuses to fly after emergency landing as his shift had ended.
I can appreciate that. Man.
And headline #3, South Milwaukee home features 4-toilet communal bathroom.
Whoa.
We're going to let that sink in just a second there. Put all that in your bozo computers.
That one's got to win. By the way, communal toilet? Come on.
So we're going to do that one more time. I'm going to write down here.
And we got to give Brian Hansen time to come up with his headlines too.
Of course, this is the stall tactic, right? We're giving the editor over there a chance to come up with some fancy headlines. So one more time for the folks way in the back. Headline #1. Cabin crew aghast as woman eats tray of lobsters on a plane.
That is so great.
Headline #2. Pakistani pilot refuses to fly after an emergency landing as his shift had ended.
Fuck this shit. I'm out of here.
And headline #3. South Milwaukee home features a 4-toilet communal bathroom.
I'm so interested in the communal bathroom. That's if I'm voting, I'm voting number 3.
All right. Well, you are voting, so you do get a vote. You know, usually sometimes
I'm
don't
only here-
exercise it.
Biz says he's only here. I'm only here for Ryan's headlines. Number three. Okay, yeah. See, Ma Jordan coming in with number 3. Courtney
Ooh,
number 3.
okay.
I don't know, Billy Wack. I don't know if you're.
Oh, that's a
voting for
lobster flight. Oh, I know he wants that.
Crustaceans on a plane. Time's up. I'm out. Toilet prayer circle. Crustaceans on a plane is the best headline you've had yet.
He's for the lobster. He came here for the lobster. Trust me, I know.
Fucking Wisconsin.
We got one. A couple
Wisconsin's
others.
a weird place, and this only confirms that.
It is a weird place. You wouldn't think, it's just crossing a border or imaginary line like that like there's a shift. There's a shift.
Right? Yeah, I think there's so many questions. Everyone's going with number 3, although Ryan did vote for number 1. Adrian has not given us a vote. I don't know if fucking Wisconsin is a vote for number 3 or not.
I think we're at a tie right now, to be very honest with you.
Ooh, lobster lady. Okay, yeah, because Aunt Chris went with the lobster lady.
Gigi also went with the lobster. So
it's
I think
because they're huddling for warmth.
nobody went for the middle story.
Yeah, because that's just awesome. You're just like, you're mad respect. My shift is over. Fuck this shit. I'm done. Emergency land this bitch.
We're at a tie. So this is a thing.
Uh-oh.
This is a thing right now.
Well,
So,
all right, so we may need Adrian to actually give us a vote so that we can.
what to say, is my dad away? Because we can just
Exactly. We might have to break glass.
we might
because-
have to.
We just established that he was. Oh wait.
All right, there she is. We have all right. We don't have to break the glass and probably wake my dad up.
Groggily answering the phone. That would have been great.
We, I believe, have a winner. That's the lobster lady.
This is pretty good too.
It is. So people were shocked when a snap of a woman eating a massive tray of seafood boil and lobsters on a plane was shared online. But the plane staff said it didn't break any rules. Airline workers were gobsmacked when a flight attendant shared a picture of a customer's lavish meal that they had brought on board a eat in economy class. Many of us pack crisps, sandwich, or even a McDonald's when getting on a flight in order to avoid pricey food options or flavorless airline meals. But most frequent flyers know to avoid bringing anything too smelly or messy into the cabin to not make other passengers uncomfortable. And we especially avoid bringing anything that contains a large amount of allergens, bar peanuts, or anything of the such. This picture was posted on Reddit in a forum, r/Treshy, where it became clear that some flyers don't feel the same way. In the photo, the woman could be seen sipping a drink while in front of a large metal roasting tray filled with
Yes, look at this lady living her fucking best life. Look at this. Yes, get you some, lady.
The seafood boil is a dish from the United States where shellfish is boiled together with potatoes, spices, corn, and other things to create a delicious, messy family meal that you tuck in with your hands. The ladies was crab legs, sweet corn, prawns, and greens, while a second ginormous foil tray nestled in a seat next to her was no less than 6 cooked lobsters.
Look at that.
6.
This gangster as fuck. I love these people.
Yet, in a large number of cooked red crustaceans sat on an uncovered tray, presumably to be eaten mid-flight. Another passenger in the seat next to the lobsters held a box of Cheez-It crackers and some baby wipes for washing on the hands. They came prepared, too, with baby wipes for their hands. They were thinking about everything.
They really were. Unbelievable.
That's crazy.
I love that. I love the balls.
Look at that. All of those lobsters.
I know that's so much seafood. There's no way she could possibly eat all that in the plane, but she was ballsy enough to be like, fuck it, I'm bringing it all on there.
So the rest of the story, people, they're just comments and Reddit, but somebody asked a legit question that where did they get that? Because they could not have brought that in through security. So that had to have been bought in the terminal to have been able to have been brought onto the flight.
That's true.
And at some point, don't you think especially these days, like maybe not these ginormous catering trays of food, no matter what it is.
Yeah, like
I don't care if it's all cornbread. I don't care.
yeah. Like that is a great question. Like, how did that even happen?
People, man, right? We just make things happen.
Amazing. America is an amazing place.
It absolutely is, and we love to talk about it here on the show. The show called Topic Thunder. You've been listening to it. You've been participating in it, unlike any other podcast show that I'm aware of. And not that I'm like a complete internet slut, but I get around. You know what I'm saying? So thanks again for listening and commentating. The chat room's always a blast, ladies and gentlemen. For joining us on Twitch, on YouTube, or still you folks.
I don't know if this is right, but Ryan says she bought 6 first-class meals, and that's how she was able to do this.
See, again, I guess if they're just after the money, but that just seems decadent, maybe disrespectful. I don't know. That's a lot of money. That's all I gotta say. To sit in economy, that's a lot of money to spend on food. That's all I'm gonna say. But other than that, thank you to Ben. Thank you to everybody for your time and participation. You've been listening to Topic Thunder again. Dan Brooks' favorite podcast he just doesn't listen to. He doesn't know yet.
A pop.